Welcome you all back to the session. So today's session we will see what is acceptance criteria. So as I have told you in the previous session, acceptance testing is done to make sure that all the requirements given in the required document in the design phase are meeting it or not. Okay, so your product has to meet all the requirements which are documented before in the SRS document. So here there are some criteria to accept your application which is developed by the customer. So during the requirements phase, each requirement is associated with some acceptance criteria. Okay, so there are some criteria to have your acceptance. Okay, so it is possible that one or more requirements may be mapped from acceptance criteria. So for example, all the high priority requirements should pass 100%. For example, login module and forgot password feature and the dashboard. Okay, these are all the high priority test cases which should be passed 100%, means it should be working 100% in all the perspective. Okay, so whenever there are changes to the requirements done during the development phase or during the test phase, so the requirements should also change in the acceptance criteria also. Okay, according to the changes done in the requirements, changes should be done in the acceptance criteria also, and it should be modified and maintained. So acceptance criteria for procedure acceptance. So acceptance criteria can be defined on the procedures followed for the delivery. So as an example, procedure acceptance could be documentation and release media. So for example, whenever you deliver your complete product to the customer, he should be wanting the documentation of the application. Okay, so you have to produce the document to the customer. So he will cross check whether the document is correct or not, and the release media. So whatever release documents you have, you need to produce it to the customer. So by considering all this, he will accept the procedure done by this. And acceptance criteria for service level agreements. So there are a lot of agreements done for the product. So these can become a part of your acceptance criteria. Okay, so service level agreements are generally part of the contract which is signed by the customer and the product organization. So this is the mutual understanding and mutual agreement done by the customer and the product organization. So all these service level agreements also should be met and should be done. So let us see selecting the test cases for the acceptance testing. So end-to-end functionality verification should be done. Okay, so test cases that include these functionalities of the product are taken up for the acceptance testing. So your application should be tested end to end. Okay, so all the end-to-end functionality should be working. And next one is domain tests. So domain is nothing but you have to have a understanding of the complete domain. Okay, so overall knowledge of the product should be there. So since acceptance test focuses on the business scenario, the product domains tests are included. So your acceptance testing is mainly focused on business scenarios. How does this application works with business requirements? Okay, so the product domain tests are included in domain tests. So test cases that reflect business domain knowledge are included. So you should have a domain knowledge to have this domain test. Next one is user scenario testing. So acceptance tests are reflecting the real life user scenario verifications. So it should have the real life user scenario verification. So as an end user, how he will be using your application and what are his verifications done. Okay, what are all the scenarios he will be using, those should be covered and verified. Basic sanity tests. So tests that verify the basic existing behavior of the product are included. So basic sanity tests should be done before having the complete product handover. And new functionality. So whenever the product undergoes any modification or changes, the acceptance test cases also should be verified and modified. Okay, and these focuses on the verifying the new features. So whatever changes you have done newly to the product should be verified. And a non-functional test, some of the non-functional tests are also included and also executed as a part of testing, just to double check that the non-functional aspects of the product are meeting the expectations or not. So it can be your application working on the 8 GB RAM, or it can be working application with the different operating systems or not. So these are all the non-functional tests which are done in the acceptance testing. Next, tests which are pertaining to legal obligations and service level agreements. So some of the legal obligations and service level agreement tests are also done in the acceptance testing. So tests that are written to check if the product complies with the certain legal obligations and service level agreements are also included in the acceptance test criteria. Next one is acceptance test data. So test cases that make use of customer real life data are also included for the acceptance testing. So you cannot use any dummy user data and test it. So you will be testing the application with real life user data. That is accepting the acceptance test data. So executing the test cases, acceptance test cases. So here the customer in the sitting in the customer environment will be testing the application as an entire application. So it is done by the customer or any other representative of the customer to check whether the product is ready for use in the real life environment or not. So when the product is ready to go live or not, he will test it. And as explained before, sometimes the customer themselves do the acceptance testing. So customer only will be doing the acceptance testing. So he will not directly go for the production before testing. He will be doing his side of testing. And in such cases, the job of the product organization is to assist the customer in acceptance testing just to resolve the issues that come out of it. So here your organization's job is not over. Okay, so the product organization job is to sit and assist your customer while doing the acceptance testing. So once after the acceptance testing is done, so the customer will give the application to the end user. Okay, so if the acceptance test team becomes an important activity, you have to have the necessary tests before giving it to the end users. So this covers your second unit. Okay, thank you students. So next session I'll be starting up with the unit 3. So once again go back to the previous sessions and understand all the sessions. Thank you students.